Hello, good afternoon. Today we will start the central nervous system. Simultaneously, along the physiology, the CNS is going on. We'll start right from the spinal cord. In order to see the spinal cord, we'll see what are the features of the spinal cord, how it looks like, and what are the coverings of the spinal cord, what are the enlargement of the spinal cord, and then particularly applied aspect, external features, internal features, one by one. Okay, now this is the picture. Can you see here? Now this red color is the spinal cord, and this beaded appearance on our external aspect, this is a vertebral column. Now see the length of the vertebral column and that of the length of the spinal cord is not matching. Actually, when you see in the third month of the intrauterine life, the spinal cord and the vertebral column length is equal. But as age advances in intrauterine life after third month, the growth of the vertebral column is increasing more fastly as compared to the spinal cord, and that's why the spinal cord ascends up. So at the birth it is at the level of L3, and in the adult the spinal cord ends at the level of L1. Now see, this is the central portion. This is the spinal cord. What is this? The spinal cord is nothing but is the particular cylindrical portion of the central nervous system, which is present at the terminal aspect. When you see the features of the spinal cord, so it is get covered by means of the various meninges. These are called the dura mater, pia mater, and arachnoid mater. And there is a space between this. Can you see? This is the spinal cord, this is the vertebral column. In between that, there is a space. This is epidural space. Now, what is the length of the spinal cord? And what is the weight of the spinal cord? In male, the length is about 45 centimeter of the spinal cord, and in the female, it is 42 centimeter. And the weight of the spinal cord is about 30 grams. Now see the length of the vertebral column as such. When you see this all together up to the coccyx, it is 65 centimeter, and hence at the end of third month, whatever the spinal nerves that are emerging from the spinal cord, they are coinciding with the intervertebral foramens. But as the spinal cord ascends up, these spinal nerve becomes oblique and then goes to the particular site of the emergence. Right. So this is the externally when you observe the spinal cord. Now see what are the coverings of the spinal cord? There are the three coverings. So innermost is a pia mater, then arachnoid mater, and then dura mater. Dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater from external aspect. So here you can see these tooth-like processes on both sides. These are the modifications of the pia maters. Now the space just below the dura mater is called subdural space, and the space between the dura mater and that of the vertebral column is called as the epidural space, and the space below the arachnoid mater is called as subarachnoid space. In the subarachnoid space, you can have particularly this white portion is the subarachnoid portion, and here you can have the CSF. In the subarachnoid space, CSF is located. Right. Now this pia mater, which is the innermost layer, it has having some modifications. In upper part of the spinal cord, it gives rise to tooth-like processes which extends from the spinal cord to the arachnoid mater and pia mater, and then it attaches to that. It acts as an anchoring portion. It holds the spinal cord in its positions. So first tooth-like processes comes from the which is attached to the foramen magnum in the above, and then it descends down, and this tooth-like processes, they are present in between the spinal segment in order to hold this. Okay, this is one modification. The second modification you can observe of this pia-mater is linea splendis. So what is this linea splendis? Linea splendis is nothing but this is the thickening part of the pia-mater, which is at the lower portion, which is present in between the anterior median sulcus and the spinal cord. This is a thickened portion of the pia-mater anteriorly in the lower portion of the spinal cord in the anterior median sulcus. That is linea splendis. And third modification of the pia-mater, here you can see in this diagram. Now see, this is the extension of the spinal cord. Spinal cord ends at the level of L1, and the extension of the spinal cord up to the coccyx is called as filum terminale. It is called as a filum terminale. It is a remnant of the spinal cord. It shows that once upon a time the spinal cord was extending up to the coccyx, isn't it? So it gives the remnant behind. This is the one of the modification of the pia-mater. Now see, this is a filum terminale. Now here at the S2 level, the dura mater ends. At the L1 level, spinal cord ends. From L1 to S2, the portion of the filum terminale is called as filum terminale internal. It is about 15 centimeter, and then filum terminale external. It has two parts. So below the S2 level, up to the coccyx, it is called as filum terminale external and filum terminale internal. So the modifications of the spinal cords are, this is one filum terminale, then linea splendis, second one, and third one what we have seen initially is the ligamentum dentaticulum. Now the ligamentum dentaticulum, when you see from anterior aspect, it looks like as this tooth-like process. Okay, anterior. When you see posteriorly, it looks like this. And in the last ligamentum dentaticulum, see, it looks like as a fork-like thing. This is the 21st. There are 21 pairs, no, in the right and left side. So can you see this last tooth-like process, which is attaching the spinal cord with the dura mater and that of the arachnoid mater in order to hold the spinal cord. The pia-mater is attaching, and can you see these are portions? This looks like as a fork-like portion. Okay. And this is a posterior view. And see the rootlets in the posterior aspect, how it looks like. So these are emerging from the posterolateral sulcus, and anterior rootlets from anteromedial sulcus. This is the anterior sulcus, this is the anteromedial sulcus. Okay. And this is a posterior sulcus centrally, and this is a posterolateral sulcus. Okay. Now this is about the various what you see, the covering. Then we come to the enlargement of the spinal cord. See the spinal cord carefully. It is not uniform in thickness, isn't it? Here it is get enlarged in this particular region. Here also it is get enlarged. Now this region, first enlargement is in the cervical region. In order to supply the muscles of the upper limb, it is get enlarged. And why it is enlarged? Because the aggregation of the neurons is much more in this region. So it supplies the muscles of the upper limb in the cervical enlargement. Whereas the another enlargement is a lumbar enlargement, and it supplies to the muscles of the lower limb. Now see more detail about the cervical enlargement. The extension of the cervical enlargement is from C2 to C4 to T2. Okay. In some books it is given T1 also. And maximum enlargement of cervical enlargement is seen at the level of C6. It is about 38 millimeter. transverse diameter when you measuring the maximum at the level of C6, and it is 38 millimeter. Whereas this is a lumbar enlargement which is extending from L2 to S3 segment L2 to S3, and the maximum enlargement in the lumbar region when you see it is at the level of S1. It is at the level of S1 and it is about 35 millimeters. So these are the enlargement. Why this enlargement they are given? Enlargement, these are because of supplying the additional portion. Now see, all this is given by supply to the trunk, where here the upper limb and lower limb is there. In order to supply the upper limb and lower limb, the additional neurons they are provided in these enlarged portions, and this is lower down the phylum terminally. Okay, then we'll see the next part, cauda equina. Now see, the lower part of this spinal cord, lower end, the previous picture will see. Now see, this is also a more or less conical portion where it is aims at the level of L1, and that conical portion is called as conus medullaris. That is called as conus medullaris, and from here the spinal cord ends, and then these various nerves which are emerging and going to the subsequent intervertebral foramen. Now see, there are the 10 nerves on the right side and 10 nerves on the left side, so a 10 pair of the nerves. Okay, so L2, L3, L4, L5, S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 and coccyx. All these are observed particularly in the lower portion of a dura mater when the spinal cord ends up to S2 level, and it looks to be horse tail. And here, by gross appearance, when you observe all these 10 pairs of the nerves on bilaterally, so on one side 10, another side 10. So when you see the rootlets, the one spinal nerve is having anterior and the posterior rootlets, isn't it? Anterior root and posterior root. So when you count the roots, so these are the 10 nerves on one side, root anterior and posterior, there are 20 roots, and 20 roots on right and 20 roots on left. Okay, so all together when you see the roots, they are 14 numbers. Why? Because 20 nerves. The roots are anterior and posterior. Okay, so 10 nerves on right, 10 nerves on left side, total 20 nerves, and each nerve has the anterior and posterior roots, and that's why the roots they are 40. Right. So L2, L3, L4 and L5, these are the 4 nerves. How many roots? 4 into 4, 16. 4 nerves, isn't it? On right and 4 nerves on left side. So 4 into 4. Because these 4 nerves, they becomes 8 nerves, and 8 into 2 calculates into 60. And similarly here you can see there are the 5 nerves on right side, 5 nerves on the left side, on both sides when count it, these are the 10 nerves. S1, S2, S3, S4 is 5. 10 nerves, and the roots of there they are 20. And then coccyx 2. So in overall total here the 40 rootlets, or the 40 roots there, anterior and posterior when you count it. Okay, right from L1. So this is about the cauda equina. Equina means horse, cauda means tail, horse tail. The bunch of the nerves looks like as a horse tail, called cauda equina. Now we see the spinal nerves. Okay, this is one nerve. What is it? Spinal segment. So this is the nerve. This is called spinal nerve. This is first, this is second, this is third. What is the reed emerging in between? This is the black colored is the vertebra and red color emerging in between that is the nerve, spinal nerve. Now see the segment of the spinal cord. Now this is one segment, this is another segment, this is third segment. This is called spinal segment. So this is a spinal nerve and this is spinal segment. When you define the spinal segment is nothing, is a part of the spinal cord to which the anterior and posterior rootlets of the subsequent spinal nerves they are attached. Okay, anterior and posterior root of the spinal nerve is attached of a same spinal nerve. That particularly portion where it is attached is called the spinal segment. So these are the spinal nerves which are emerging out, and these are all the spinal segments. Now see, being the spinal cord ends at the level of L1, but the spinal nerves they are emerging at the coccyx level also. So the nerve has to take an oblique course in order to go to their subsequent intervertebral foramen as it ascends up. Correct. So we'll see the spinal nerves and relations to spinal segment and spinal nerves. I think this slide is just now see here, this is the slide. Now see, the one spinal nerve is having 6 to 8 rootlets. 6 to 8 rootlets. These are the ventral as well as the dorsal. So one root, in order to find the anterior root and posterior root, rootlets are 6 to 8. They join together and then form the anterior and posterior roots, and then anterior and posterior roots they join together and they form the spinal nerve. Now see, when you see the level of the vertebral column and the spinal segment, now this is the vertebral level. Vertebra C2, this is the spinal segment C2. Vertebra C5, spinal segment C6. Vertebra T3, spinal segment T5. Why this is changing? You know, the spinal cord ends at the level of L1, but the vertebrae, now this is a vertebra, at the level of L1 spinal cord ends, but the spinal segment they are all together emerging at the coccyx level. So overall, when you see up to the C8 level, we have to add 1 in order to calculate the vertebra and spinal segment. Now that C5, add 1, there will be a spinal segment C6. Now up to T6 level, you have to add 2. So here example is given T3. T3 is vertebra. You have to add 2. That will calculate the segment, spinal segment T5. And in between the T9 to T12 vertebra, particularly not T9 to T8, but up to the T9, T6 to T9, we have to add 3. So here example is given T7 vertebra, you have to add 3, it becomes T10 spinal segment. If the T9 is there, you have to add 3, it becomes T12. T12 spinal segment. At the level of T10 and T11 vertebra, all together L1 to L5, 5 nerves are located. Whereas at the level of T12 to L1 vertebra, all 5 sacral nerves are located, S1 to S5. And coccyx. So at the level of L1, T12 to L1, lower 5 sacral nerves and coccyx. Whereas at the level of T11, in between T10 to T11, all lumbar nerves, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. At the level of T9, as I have told you, T6 to T9, you have to add 3. So at the level of T9, there will be T12. Nerve, spinal segment. So again, I will just revise the thing. Up to the level of C7 vertebra, you have to add 1. So initial segments, they are correlating, but after that we have to add one. So it is given at the level of C5. Example is given vertebra C5, segment is C6. Then T1 to T6 we have to add 2. Here the example is given T3. So you have to add to T5. Now T6 to T9 vertebra you have to add 3. So example is given T7, segment is T10. Similarly, if it is T9, then segment will be T12, adding by 3. And at the level of T10 and T11, particularly T10 to T11, 5 nerves, T12 to L1, 6 nerves are this, 5 sacral and coccyx. So these are the spinal segments as the vertebral column ascends up, isn't it? So spinal nerves, how many spinal nerves are there? 31 pairs. 31 pairs of the spinal nerve. Among these, 8 sacral, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral and coccyx. So there are 31 pairs of the spinal nerves are there. And then the spinal segment. These various spinal segment and spinal nerves. Get it? Okay. Now any doubt? So we have seen spinal cord, what is its length, what is its breadth, particularly what is its weight also, where it extends, then what are its coverings, and then what are the modification of the pia mater, what are its enlargement, and then what is cauda equina, isn't it? What is cauda equina? And then we have seen particularly the spinal nerve and spinal segment, their relations. Spinal segment with vertebra, spinal segment with the vertebra, the vertebral segment and spinal segment relation of that we have seen. So this is the altogether spinal cord. Now what are the, when you take the cut section of the spinal cord, how it looks like, or the external features, and what are the internal features. Now see here in this cut section you can have, this is the dura mater, this is particularly the vertebral cut section. Now this layer is a dura mater. The space above in with the dura mater and this is the vertebra, this space is called as subdural space. Epidural space. This is called epidural space, and this is a space between dura mater and arachnoid matter. Can you see this is arachnoid, this is a dura, and the space here is called subdural. Space above the dura is called epidural, space below the dura is called subdural space. And then this is arachnoid matter layer, and the space below the arachnoid is called subarachnoid space, in which the CSF is present. And then this is pia mater. We have seen the altogether what are the various modifications of the pia mater. So we are coming from external to internal aspect. Now when you enter into the spinal cord proper, now we say this is the white thing seen is the white matter, and this is the grey matter. Okay, and here in the centrally seen is the central canal. And when you focus on this grey matter, can you see it is having the various extensions, and these are called horns. So this is a posterior horn. It is having the head, neck, base. And the anterior horn, it is having the again base and head. And this is altogether the white matter and grey matter. Grey matter is present in the center of the spinal cord, and the opening, whatever the cavity, not opening, you can say the cavity in the spinal cord is called as central canal. So again little bit detail when you see the cut section, what are the various parts of the grey matter, internal features, and what are the external features. The externally, when you see the spinal cord, now see this is the cut section in the cervical region, and this is the external portion of the spinal cord. Can you see anteriorly is called as anterior median fissure. Here it is present, anterior median fissure everywhere. and posteriorly is the little bit depression is there called as posterior median sulcus. That is called posterior median sulcus. Okay, and posterior median septum is present in posterior median sulcus, whereas the anterior median sulcus, in which there is the anterior spinal artery is large, which is supplying to the spinal cord. Here is the anterolateral sulcus through which the anterior root is emerging, and here is the posterolateral sulcus where is the posterior root is emerging. So posterior root and anterior root joins together, and then spinal nerves which emerge out in between the intervertebral foramen. So externally when you see, so anterior median fissure, posterior median sulcus, here is the anterolateral sulcus, and here is the posterolateral sulcus. So externally, when you go inside of the spinal cord, then you can have this gray matter. This is central canal, and surrounding to the gray matter is a white matter. So we'll come to again to this picture. So before that, we'll see this one. What are the internal features? Can you see here also? This is the posterior median sulcus. This is the this is the anterior median fissure, and this is the posterior median sulcus. So here it is a posterolateral sulcus, and here it is a anterolateral sulcus. Okay. Now see the gray matter. Focus on the gray matter. Here you can see the various nuclei. As you know, nucleus in the central nervous system is nothing but it is the aggregation of the neurons. So neurons, they are located in the gray matter, and they are aggregated in the forms that is called nucleus. So the posterior horn, the lateral horn, and this is the anterior horn. When you see the anterior horn, it is having three groups. So this is a lateral group, this is central group, and this is medial group, cell groups in the anterior gray column. So lateral group, and this is a medial group. Medial group supplies to the axial muscles of trunk particularly, and the lateral group, which is mainly present in the cervical and lumbar region, and it is again further divided particularly into three parts: lateral group, anterolateral nucleus, posterolateral nucleus, and retroposterolateral nucleus. In this picture it is not shown, but the lateral group is divided into three groups, which is anteriorly present is anterolateral, behind to that posterolateral, and behind to that retroposterolateral. And this is particularly present in cervical region and lumbar region, being supplying to the limbs. So the anterolateral supplies to the, particularly in cervical region, supplied to the upper part of the limb, whereas the posterolateral supplies to the lower part of the limb. Or in specifically we say the anterolateral supplies to the arm, posterolateral supplies to the forearm, and retroposterolateral supplies to the hand. Similarly, this is particularly present in lumbar regions. Again same, anterolateral supplies to thigh, posterolateral supplies to the leg, and retroposterolateral supplies to the foot muscles altogether. Okay, and this central group is present in cervical region only, and it is concerned with the diaphragmatic group of the nuclei, supplying the C3 C4 level, the arrangement of the aggregation of the neurons which supplies to the diaphragm, and the spinal part of the accessory nerve, some part of it. And this medial group which extends throughout the spinal cord, and it supplies to axial trunk muscles. So overall, when you say the lateral group supplies to the upper and lower limb, which is present in cervical region, it is get divided into three parts: anterolateral, posterolateral, and retroposterolateral. Medial group present in throughout the spinal cord and supplies to the axial muscles of the trunk, and whereas this central group is present in cervical region and which uses the nerve, particularly the diaphragmatic supplies to diaphragm and the spinal accessory nerves, spinal part of accessory nerves. Okay, little bit in order to understand, it becomes little bit difficult, but when you concentrate it becomes easy. Okay, so this is anterior horn, then this is a lateral horn. Now say lateral horn, it is having two parts. So this is called as intermedio-lateral group, and this is called as intermedio-medial group or intermedio-medial nucleus. So intermedio-lateral group, a lateral horn, where to where it extends? Lateral horn extends up to L2, T1 to L2, and it gives the neurons, particularly preganglion neurons of the sympathetic fibers up to T1 to L2. So lateral horn is present into T1 to L2, and intermedio-lateral group gives rise to preganglionic sympathetic fibers up to L2 level. But this lateral horn is also present in S2, S3, S4 level. There, the intermedio-lateral group gives the preganglionic fibers of parasympathetic nerves, which gives the sacral outflow, and which supplies the muscles of the, or not muscles, but the organs which are present in the pelvic region, right? And up to L2 level, the organs in the abdomen. We are calculating particularly the nerve supply of the stomach or whatever it may be, we are saying from T1 to T6, like this. So this is the intermedio-lateral. Whereas the intermedio-medial group, this is the interneurontial neurons. They are present in interneurontial neurons, right? And this is the posterior horn. Posterior horn is sensory. It receives all sensations, where the anterior horn is a motor. It gives the various motor neurons. Okay. Now this posterior horn, it is having the four nuclei. This is a substantia gelatinosa, which is capping to the posterior horn, whereas the nucleus proprius and substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius and nucleus dorsalis is there. And here is it is not shown in this picture, but the post-marginal nucleus is there, which is just little bit adjacent to the substantia gelatinosa, post-marginal nucleus. So post-marginal nucleus, substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, and Clark's column or nucleus dorsalis. So this is the internal aspect of the gray matter. So by just observing and reading, you will understood. Now see, this is the another picture. Can you see? So this here it is shown. Post-marginal nucleus. There is a substantia gelatinosa. This is a nucleus proprius, and here is the column, the Clark's column. Here it is shown. Okay, and then this is the anterior horn. This is a medial group. This is central group, and this is lateral group. And another side, a Regs has shown particularly initially, when you take a cut section, thick cut section of the spinal cord, you can observe the laminar pattern. When the spinal cord cut section is thick, the Regs discovered this particularly, and it is given labeled it as this lamella 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 laminae are there, and they is given the number Roman numbers 1 to 10. Now see the posterior horn, it is numbers, these are ranging from 1 to 6. 1 to 6. And in this you can have the nuclei, substantia gelatinosa, or post-marginal nucleus, substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, and part of the Clark's column nucleus. See the Clark's column nucleus extending in intermediate neuron also. Now this is the lamella 7. Lamella 7 मध्ये, you can see in lamella 7 there is the Clark's column nucleus, and then this is the intermedio-medial and intermedio-lateral group of the neuron of the lateral horn. Whereas the lamella 9 is particularly, you can have this group, this lateral group, the lateral and part of the central is in the 9, and in the 8 you can have the medial group of the neurons. Okay, and this is the 10 surrounding particularly to the central canal, that is called lamella 10, and these are the interneurontial neurons and neuroglia. Mostly they are present neuroglia and few of the interneurontial neurons fibers. So not so complicated when you are observing this. Okay, here the laminae of the rays and related nuclear group. So these are one side the group nuclear group, and another side the laminae shown. So this is the internal and external features of the spinal cord. So externally, when you what is seen, there is anterior median feature, posterior median sulcus, posterolateral sulcus, anterolateral sulcus, and then you can see this is get divided into the posterior funiculus, this is lateral funiculus, and there is anterior funiculus of white matter. White matter, what is this? White matter is nothing but axons of these neurons. Axons of the neurons, when they come together, having a myelinating portion and looks to be white, and only neurons, they looks to be gray. And the spinal cord, they are present in the center. So external and internal features of the spinal cord. So just go through a little bit understood the thing. Now we focus internal features of white matter. White matter only when you focus. Now this is the posterior median sulcus, right? And this is a posterior dorsolateral tract, and here the posterolateral sulcus is there. In between posterolateral sulcus and posterior median sulcus area, range between this is called as the posterior funiculus. And in this posterior funiculus, tracts of gall and Barda, that is the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, is located in the posterior funiculus. Whereas in the lateral funiculus, can you see here the various tracts, the anterior spinocerebellar tract, posterior spinocerebellar tract, and then particularly the spinoalveolar tract, and then anterior spinothalamic and lateral spinothalamic tract. These are located, and this is anterior funiculus. Here you can have the anterior corticospinal tract and tectospinal tract and vestibulospinal tract, medial reticulospinal tract. All these together they are located in the anterior funiculus. So gray matter is white matter is get divided into three parts. Which are they? The posterior funiculus, which is in between the posterior median sulcus and posterolateral sulcus. There is a lateral sulcus, lateral funiculus extending between the posterolateral sulcus and anterolateral sulcus, and the anterior funiculus extending from anterolateral sulcus to anterior median fissure. And the various group of the ascending tracts and descending tracts, they are located. We'll see these ascending, descending tracts in next lectures, but in order to have a gross idea, here I have shown you. Right. So this is about the spinal cord. Little bit focus on this. Spinal cord, when you take a cut section, it is not uniform in cervical or the thoracic or sacral region. Okay. So what are the little bit differences are there? Now say in the cervical region, the spinal cord is oval. Overall section, when you observe, when you take a cut section in the cervical region, it looks to be oval. And see, in the posterior horn is slender, anterior horn is broad and massive. In upper one or two segment, it is also slender, but lower down it becomes broad and massive because of having the cervical enlargement and aggregation of the neurons, which supplies to the upper extremity. Okay, so posterior horn is slender, anterior horn is broad and massive, no lateral horn. Lateral horn is not seen. Whereas in a thoracic region, overall, when you see the cut section, it looks to be circular in nature. And now see, posterior horn is also slender, anterior horn is also more or less slender, and it is having a lateral horn. Identity of the thoracic spinal cord is having lateral horn. Lateral horn is there. Okay, it is not present here in the cervical. Okay, right? Then when you take the cut section of the spinal cord in the lumbar region, how it looks like? It is a large and circular. Thoracic में क्या आया था? This is the small and circular. Here in the lumbar, large and circular, gross. And see, the posterior horn is also little bit bulbous and short, whereas the anterior horn is again bulbous and short anterior horn. Why? Because again the bulbous aggregation of the neurons in order to supply the lower extremity. So can you hear? The cervical region also the anterior horn is bulbous. In the lumbar region is also having anterior horn is bulbous. And because there is cervical enlargement and here is a lumbar enlargement, already we have seen in gross in initial pictures. Okay, here is no lateral horn. Lateral horn is the entity purely present particularly in thoracic region, but it can extend up to L2. Okay, and in sacral, can you see the sacral? It is small and circular or quadrilateral, you can say. It is small circular. Here is small circular, but it is not matching with the thoracic, so we can say it is the quadrilateral overall when you cut section. And see, the posterior horn is a massive and ovate, whereas the anterior horn is massive and ovate. So by just observing the cut sections under the microscope, you can identify this region, where the region is belong, or whether it is of cervical region, whether it is of thoracic, whether it is of lumbar, or whether it is sacral. Lateral horn is present in thoracic. Okay, this though it extends up to L2, but mainly we can say it is in thoracic region. And anterior horns, they are bulbous in cervical and lumbar. Right. And here the massive horns. Very easy to remember actually. This is the cut sections of the spinal cord. Now already we have seen the spinal nerves and spinal segment. These are segments and spinal nerves and their relations. Okay. Now this is the internal features of the spinal cord and the nuclei, how their aggregations. Nuclei, they are nothing but the aggregation of the neurons. And the arrangement on one side, the regs lamellae, they are shown on one side, and the arrangement of the nuclei on the other side. There are the 10 lamellae and how they are arranged when you correlate the nuclei with the lamellae. And this is the internal aspect of the spinal cord, particularly white matter divisions. Can you see here? Mainly there is the posterior funiculus, lateral funiculus, and the anterior funiculus, isn't it? And there is various tracts, they are ascending and descending. Here are the lateral corticospinal tract or pyramidal tract, descending tract. Corticospinal tract is a descending tract which is present in the lateral funiculus, whereas this is the fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus funiculus, ascending tract. They are present in the posterior funiculus. These are all also ascending tracts. They are present in the, again, in the lateral funiculus, the anterior funiculus, like this. A few of them they are ascending and few of them they are descending. So we will learn in detail about that, don't worry. So this is about the spinal cord. Spinal cord, already we have seen what is the spinal cord, what is the cylindrical portion, particularly of the nervous system, and then what are the features, what is its length, what is its breadth, what is its weight, then what are the coverings, what are the various modifications of the diameter, then what are this enlargement, cervical enlargement, lumbar enlargement, where it extends, where it is get morely enlarged and what not, and then what is called equina, what that we have seen. Then we have seen the spinal nerve and spinal segment, relations of that. As well, we have seen the cut sections of the spinal cord at the various levels, how it looks like, and the external features. When you see externally how it looks like the anteromedian fissure, posterior median sulcus, anterolateral sulcus, posterolateral sulcus, etc. And then internal feature structures, the grey matter and white matter, and divisions of the grey matter and the various nuclei, and white matter, divisions of the white matter and various part of the ascending and descending tracts. That level, we will see that detail. So this is about overall spinal cord. Now what is the blood supply? What is blood supply of the spinal cord? Now see, this is the anterior view of the spinal cord. Okay, now focus here. Now this is a vertebral artery and this is also another vertebral artery. So right and left vertebral artery joins together and form the basilar artery. Okay, and these are the various pontine and the posterior cerebral artery. We will see that blood supply of the brain in detail. But here, in order to understand, the blood supply of the spinal cord is supplied by the anterior spinal artery. It is the branch of vertebral artery. Can you see on both sides? This is the right and this is the left. Vertebral artery gives branch, that is the both of these branches joins together and forms the anterior spinal artery. It supplies anterior 2/3 part of the spinal cord, and can you see here it is reinforced in its way. Anterior spinal artery, can you see it extends up to this level, but it is get reinforced by the ascending cervical artery, then the particularly the posterior intercostal arteries, then the arteria radicularis magna, and then the lateral sacral arteries. They are reinforcing in order to continue this anterior spinal artery, and then it gives various branches, and the third part of the substance of the spinal cord is supplied by means of anterior spinal artery. When you see the posterior view, now the posterior inferior cerebellar artery is a branch of the basilar artery. Basilar artery is formed by means of two vertebral artery joins together and form basilar artery. The one of the branch of the basilar artery is the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. It gives a branch on both sides, but they are not uniting. Can you observe? They are having anastomotic channels on both sides. It means that posterior spinal arteries, they are two in number, right? And they are also get reinforced by means of the intersegmental arteries and supply the posterior 1/3 part of the substance of the spinal cord. Here you remember anterior spinal artery and posterior spinal arteries. These are the arteries which supply the substance of the spinal cord. When you take the cut section of the spinal branch segmental artery, when you see it goes on the posterior side, and then how it is, see the anterior portion, it supplies the anterior 1/3 portion, and posterior 1/3 is supplied with the posterior spinal artery. Can you see this is the posterior? Here it is the anterior spinal artery, and both sides the posterior spinal arteries, and they are collaterals, right? This is a cut section in order to see. Here at the lower side you can see very clearly also, and the vein is present in the posterior median longitudinal venous channel, and this is the posterior lateral longitudinal venous channel, and this is the lower down the anteromedian longitudinal channel, venous channels. These are the veins and anterolateral channels. So the blood supply and venous drainage of the spinal cord. So this finishes the spinal cord. Now the most little bit important portion is the applied aspect of the spinal cord. Again we will have in detail about that, because this is the initial phase. We will see in detail about the applied aspect, but here little bit we highlight the things. Now see lumbar puncture. Lumbar puncture, where it is done? It is in adults. It is in between L2 and L3. In between L2 and L3, in that segment you can do the lumbar puncture. Why that side is preferred? What is lumbar puncture? In order to take the CSF, particularly the lumbar puncture needle is there, and that will be penetrated in between the L2 and L3 vertebra, and then it pass where up to the subarachnoid space. In the subarachnoid space there is a CSF, and CSF is taken out in order to have the various investigations. So it is having the various content of the CSF. That is again another portion. We will see in detail about that, and the constituents of the CSF in order to see whether they are ranging or decreasing the proteins and sugar and whatnot. So in order to have the laboratory investigations of the CSF is taken out by doing the lumbar puncture. And here the syringomyelia is another abnormality, that is cavitation around the central canal. Then the Brown-Sequard syndrome in detail you can observe in the physiology also, isn't it? And then TBs dorsalis, particularly dorsal horn, when they are involved by the tertiary syphilis. Okay, and the posterior is rhizotomy, is removing. Tomy means portion cutting, isn't it? Chordotomy means again cord cutting, and anterior spinal artery, posterior spinal artery, anterior spinal artery syndrome. So we'll see in detail about this. Here you just remember and focus on the lumbar puncture mainly. All these applied aspects we will see in detail. In fact, we'll have the last lecture. When you see the ascending tracts and descending tracts, and this is not the phase to describe the Brown-Sequard syndrome. So which tracts they are get damaged and what happens. So unless and until you learn the ascending and descending tracts, the another applied aspect here elaborate is not a point to elaborate the thing. Here you can understand only the lumbar puncture very well. Other applied we will see afterwards. Okay, thank you. So any questions you can have to ask, particularly by doing the mail also. किती वेळ झाला रे? चालू आहे का?